So this lesson is about the two really powerful questions that will help you feel in control when you're triggered. And the first thing I want to go back to in that fight, flight response discussion about the limbic system is to help you understand what the real life application of the limbic system and having no time or language, what that really means. I tried to show in this image kind of what it feels like to be in relationship when you have had trauma in your past. When that happens, the limbic system really tries to convince us that something that's old, that doesn't happen in our life anymore, is still current. So, for example, if you had somebody who yelled at you constantly or somebody who was always mad, and now you're in a happy relationship, your brain, the limbic system, will pick up the smallest little cues to convince you that your current partner is mad at you, even when they're not. So that's your brain trying to convince you that something old relationship patterns are current. The other thing that the limbic system does, tries to convince us that something perceived is real. So instead of being able to see that something old is actually old, those little perceived nuances get put together in a way that creates a larger picture that makes us believe that what we're seeing is actually real in real time, even though it's not. So we have to employ two really powerful questions, but before I give you those questions have to be definitely paired with proper breath, because if they're not, the questions won't do us any good. So let's talk about breath. Why is it important? Proper breath actually reverses the flight, fight, or triggered response. When we're in that fight or flight response, because it's in the lower brain and it's separate from the cerebral cortex, remember our IQ is in our cerebral cortex. The limbic system doesn't have IQ, it just holds emotions and memories. So if we're in fight or flight and we can activate our breath system in the correct way, we'll restore our ability to think higher order things, to think with our cerebral cortex, and we'll be much more able to create that bridge between the cerebral cortex and the limbic system that I was talking about in the last session. And that will improve our ability to effectively use the two questions that I'm going to give you today. So the first thing I want to show you is upper chest breathing. Upper chest breathing increases anxiety, and it reinforces the activation of the limbic system, and it reinforces the fight or flight response, and it reinforces your inability to think clearly. So most people breathe this way when they're told to take a deep breath. So I want you to watch what you see when she takes a deep breath. See, shoulders rising. Most people think that shoulders rising is a deep breath. It's not. That's actually the way breath happens in an anxious person. Let's see if we can watch it again. Where's her breath going? Shoulders. Okay, so that's what we don't want to do. What we do want to do is activate our vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve begins in the base of the skull at the top of your spine, and it goes through every part of your body. It's responsible for all of the fight-flight reactions. So whether your pupils are big or small, whether your hands are sweaty or dry, whether they're warm or cold, whether your heart rate is high or slow, the vagus nerve controls all of that. And if we can get it to activate, it actually will calm. How do we do that? We do it with correct breath. Correct breath is associated with using your diaphragm. So the diaphragm, what we believe is when we do diaphragmatic breathing, is that the diaphragm actually stimulates the vagus nerve and produces an involuntary relaxation response. It's like having a relaxation button in your spine. So the next lesson you'll be getting is a video of me demonstrating and talking about diaphragmatic breathing. And I want you to practice that. I tell people to practice it every morning and every night so that when you find yourself in the fight-flight response, you already know how to do it. You don't have to say, wait, what was it? How was it that I was supposed to breathe? Because that will just increase your anxiety response. So, story time. I think the best way to really illustrate these two powerful questions is to tell you a story. So, this little girl is about 3 or 4 probably, and she is interacting with a very well socialized Australian Shepherd. It's clear that he loves her and that he doesn't have any intention to hurt her. But when I was 5, so I was a little bit bigger than her, and I'm tall, so I probably was a little bit bigger than her anyway. My grandmother had a not well socialized Australian Shepherd. So if you see the relative size, what happened was my little brother and I were trying to pet the dog through the fence, and he got too excited and wasn't well socialized, and long story short, he ended up climbing under the fence, digging under the fence, and I ended up on a plastic surgeon's table with 36 stitches in my face and throat. So, as a result of that, I was afraid to go outside. Now, this picture of a rock, it's kind of funny. I was afraid to go outside until I was 30 years old. And when I reasoned that if I wanted to be able to go outside, if you imagine what it's like not being able to go outside, if I went out for walks, I would just like fill my pockets with rocks so that no matter where I was, if I got threatened by a dog, I could actually protect myself. The other funny part is that I can't really throw worth anything, so I never actually hit a dog with rocks. I just kept myself very well reinforced. And one day I was coming around the corner and almost home, so I was literally on the sidewalk at my front yard, 10 feet from the driveway, and I was confronted with a Chihuahua. I put this picture down because Chihuahuas are very small, and I was already 6 feet tall, and there was nothing that this little Chihuahua could do. However, he terrified me. I surprised him, and so he showed his teeth and the hair stood up on his back, and I did not know what to do. I was terrified. It was as if I was 5 years old again. And what happened is we stood there in sort of a standstill until he finally started making a big circle around me, and I thought, oh, that's really smart. So I also facing him, we faced each other and turned. Then he went and ran the other way, and I went up my driveway and in my front door. I stood inside my front door and went, what the heck happened? This tiny little Chihuahua must have weighed 2 pounds, and I was 6 feet tall. But I believed while I was standing out there with him that I was 5, that I was dog food, and that he was going to get me, just like the Australian Shepherd had 25 years before. That dog who was able and big enough to pin me. That's the first moment where I realized, hey, something's going on in the brain. What is this? And that's when I realized the first powerful question. Is it real? It felt real. My life felt like it was in danger. But was it really real? The answer is no. Second powerful question, is it now? So these are, as soon as I realized that I needed to overcome my fear of dogs because I didn't want to be running around afraid of things that weren't real, I actually started pet sitting. And the puppy on the left and the dog in the upper right corner are both Australian Shepherds. And I began to pet sit them on a very regular basis. one on the upper right actually was one of 2 adult dogs. And one of the things that these Australian Shepherds did, they loved me. We had a good relationship. I knew that clearly. But every time I showed up to dog sit, they would bark at me because they were excited to see me. That's when the second powerful question came into play for me. I'm standing inside a front door in someone else's home, and there are 2 Australian Shepherds, the same kind of faces that had hurt me when I was 5. Is it now? I had to tell myself all of the differences between these 2 dogs now and me now, and what had happened so many years before. So the 2 powerful questions are, is it real? And is it now? So next time you feel a threat, I want you to breathe and ask yourself, is the threat I feel real? Is it real? And is the threat I feel now? It means that you're going to have to do some thinking through about the differences between who you are and who you were, and what the situation, what the circumstances are now, and what they were. That's the beginning steps of healing a trigger. I'm happy to say that I'm no longer house sitting and dog sitting, but I'm also not afraid of dogs. So that's the happy ending. So here's your homework. I want you to identify your personal dogobs. Remember lesson 2 and the dogob story? I want you to identify your own personal dogobs, and I want you to talk about it. I want you to write about it. I want you to find someone who you've shared that common experience with and share them, and notice what happens in your body and how positive and pleasant the experiences of reliving happy triggers is. And then when you feel triggered this week, I want you to breathe, watch the breathing video and practice it. And then I want you to remember that this is a brain trick. A trigger is a brain trick. I want you to identify the threat. What is the perceived threat? And ask yourself, is it real? And is it now? So that's all for this week. If there are any questions, prepare them for our weekly Zoom Q&A, and I'll be happy to address anything that comes up for you as you're working through the lessons and homework of this week.